Welcome everyone to the Water Pollution Control Authority virtual meeting, Wednesday, January 19th. We've posted an agenda. Are there any proposed changes, modifications to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will proceed. Hi, Nancy. Okay, first item in front of us is the approval of the December 15th, 2021 regular meeting minutes. Comments, questions?
I have one change.
Okay.
Under new business, item 1. Okay, Joe motioned to elect Mark as chair. I seconded it, and then I motioned to elect Joe as vice chair, but I don't see any second. I see everybody said, yeah, unanimous carried, but there was no second. Does anybody remember seconding that?
I think that was Matt.
I was going to say, I certainly would have.
That was Matt. Second
Hello,
from Matt.
guys, can you hear me? This is Sheila.
Hi, Sheila.
Hi, I just want to let you know, if I didn't put a second in there, it's because you didn't identify yourself. So the motion was seconded, but I don't know by who, so the motion carried and passed. And I re-listened to the meeting, and there are several times I didn't know who was motioning. So it was seconded and carried.
Okay.
All right. With Matt's
So with
name
Matt
down,
and Sheila, I'm going to do a better job at identifying.
Okay, thanks. It's hard because if, you know, you're listening and I'm typing and I don't have the visual, and sometimes I do, but to go back and forth. So, and then also just keep in mind for future, when people are listening to the recording, they're hearing the same thing I'm hearing. And if you're listening to it 6 months from now, you don't know who motioned. So.
Excellent. Sheila, we're lucky to have you.
So the video does not get recorded then? It's just the audio that gets recorded?
No, it was recorded, and I re-listened it. I mean, I did listen to it. So if you guys want to listen to it yourself, and if you can decipher who seconded it, I will be happy to add it. I listened to it, and I watched it on YouTube, and I couldn't figure it out. So if you do that, we can table this, and I can add it in next month.
Okay.
But I couldn't figure it out.
Second from Matt.
Okay.
Okay. Any other proposed changes? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
From Ron Drew. A second from Chris was at the meeting. Second from Chris Steiner. All in favor? That's Chris, Ron, Matt, and Mark who were at the meeting.
And this is Nancy Lefkowitz. I'll abstain because I was absent.
Yep. Okay.
Sorry,
Okay, next
froze
item.
up there for a minute.
Well, John, you're unfrozen. Good to have you back. Okay, actually, you're up now.
Oh,
Talk
good.
to us. Next item is new business, which is the agitator and dolly. Let me frame this for I meant to do first was to welcome Chris Steiner and Tom McCarthy to the WPCA. I got ahead of myself. Chris has a wealth of construction expertise, which will serve the commission well. And Tom, if he joins us, has quite a bit of town experience to focus on capital budgeting, which will certainly serve us well as we consider the capital projects that are in front of us. Going back to the proposal to replace the agitator and dolly at the treatment plant, John, walk us through that and tell us when we're thinking about kind of mission critical components of the plant that can't wait for the plant upgrade. Is this one of them?
I missed most of that because I froze up again, but yes, this is critical. This is what we process the sludge with at the end. This is how we get rid of it. It was put in 2006. It's in a harsh environment. It's at the end of its life.
And what's the lead time for a piece of equipment like this?
Actually, it's 48 weeks.
48 weeks
48 weeks. So say a year.
and growing, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, we sent the blower out to get rebuilt in October. It's still not back yet. They're still waiting on bearings. So,
Okay. All right. And this is a piece of equipment that if it fails, the plant fails,
well,
or the process fails.
the process fails because we have sludge that we would have to truck to an incinerator. If you can find an incinerator to take it, you would be ahead of the game, and then the cost to truck it and to burn it is just, it's astronomical.
Understood. Last month we spoke that there might be 3 or 4 pieces of equipment that are in this kind of budget range that need to be replaced kind of ASAP. Can't wait 3 or 4 years for the plant upgrade. And let me just confirm that this would not be kind of rendered obsolete by the plant upgrade. Is that correct?
Absolutely not. It would be state of the art. State of the art, and the upgrade would have nothing to do with the compost, that part of the compost building anyway. So,
Okay. And the last question out of me is this something that needs to be put out to bid, or is there just one company that makes this piece?
there's only one company that I know of,
Okay.
and they've been supplying us this similar equipment since 1989, when it first was put into service. The building, that is.
Okay. Is a proposal to fund this out of our cash balance?
Yes, sir.
Comments or questions from the commission? Okay. Is there a motion? Our motion maker, Joe, is helping his daughter move in Texas. So I'm gonna need a few of you other guys to step up tonight.
Hey, John, I got just one question, maybe since I'm new here, is that who from this, so who's gonna be running the, this job, or who's gonna be, making sure everything is implemented? I think we might have lost them.
Yeah. So the question is on the installation, Chris?
Yeah, I'm just kind of, because I see a couple items in here where is that, for, Fairfield to provide man lift, and we have to schedule a crane and whatnot. And then there's a couple items in here, just general questions, and like the radio control signals there that they got to get upgraded there. And I'm assuming everything that we're putting in new for the radio and everything is all going to be compatible to the new system that's going to be upgraded in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was just a general question, that who's going to be the point person? Is it going to be John from this group?
Mm-hmm.
It's just general, so
Yeah.
now we could keep it moving forward.
No.
So that was it.
Yeah,
Other than
John
that,
said the plant. John said the plant, and I suspect the Wi-Fi is a little spotty. Which, 2 years into COVID meetings, anything can happen.
No, but
Usually does.
other than that, Mark, I don't have any other questions. So just general questions for me to learn a little bit more about this too. But other than that, I'm fine with it. Thank you.
Yep.
In addition to John's involvement, I mean, Mark, I guess that could roll into a little bit of what we were planning on potentially bringing up later as far as capital projects.
Yeah, exactly. There you go, John. Good to have you back.
This keeps going out. You started talking and then it quit. So.
Yeah, let me sound by what Chris Steiner asked, which is, can you give us an overview of who's responsible for the installation and the aspects that require the town involvement, Who's going to oversee that?
BDP will deliver it here. We have to hire the crane, but once the crane lifts the machine into place, they're gonna hook it up. They're gonna set it up. They're going to commission it, and I think included in the quote was 3-4 days of on-site tech support. So they're pretty much soup to nuts other than the crane. And then
Yeah, thank
train
you.
our guys too.
Yeah, because I see it's got in there for training. I think it's got like 14 days installation and another 3 or so for training. And you think that's adequate for a machine like this?
Yeah, I mean, we've been running a machine similar to this since '89, and the guys that are out there, they kind of know this will just be a little more fancy and just a little more learning curve, but I think 3 days is more than enough.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
And the other point Chris had is relative to the radio frequency, and will that be in sync with the planned upgrade equipment that goes in?
Yes. Yes, we will make sure it's integrated and it'll be seamless.
Great. Good questions, Chris. Okay, is there a motion? Motion from Chris.
This is Nancy. I'll second it.
Okay, so the motion is to so that Sheila has the language to approve the expenditure of, someone help me out. I don't have the dollar amount in front of me.
Do you want the exact dollar, or do you want me to just say to a motion to approve the presented proposals for the agitator and the controls?
I got it here. Just let me.
In a dollar amount, yeah.
$540,000.
Okay.
Okay, why could, oh, there, okay.
Okay. To be funded from the operating account of the WPCA. I'll tell Joe how much we miss him when I talk to him next. That motion was made by Chris Steiner. It was seconded by, who's second?
Nancy.
Me.
Nancy from second. All in favor?
Aye.
Chris, Mark, Matt,
Aye.
and Ron and Nancy in favor, unanimous. Okay, terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. We have one sewer adjustment in front of us this evening on 139 Short Hill Lane. It's my understanding from Mr. Clancy that this is relatively straightforward. It's a resident who had a fairly, I would say, symmetrical water use over a number of years. They had a leak. It was documented with Aquarian. There's supporting documentation showing the leak was fixed. The bill that we invoiced was $1,421. On average, over the last couple of years, it was plus or minus $300. So, John, what is the amount of the adjustment in front of us?
Yeah, the 1,400 was because she paid interest with it. So the current bill was 1,380, and her new bill would be for 441. So if we added those two together, her adjusted rate would be 938.40. But she paid $679.65 of that. So she's looking for a credit of $258.75 on her next payment, on her next bill.
Okay. Comments or questions from the commission? See none. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion that, Chris, you want to do it?
Go ahead, Ron.
I'll make a motion that we put a credit on the books for this person, Maria Don, at 139 Sport Hill Lane. And John, Bill, give me the amount, what was the amount?
$258.75 credit.
$258.70. What was it? It's hard to hear.
75 cents.
75 cents. Put a credit on the books for Ms. Dunn for next year's payment in October.
Second? Second from Chris. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay. We're moving on to old business, and that's consider and act on a request for a proposed 65-unit residential building at 15 Aqua Road to connect to the Fairfield sewer system. For the benefit of Chris, who this is new, and I see that we have, who is here from the applicant? We have Dr. Lee, Chris?
Smith, Mr. Chairman.
Chris Smith, yep.
Here I am.
Okay. Yep.
Larry
Great.
Edwards, I'm the engineer.
Larry Edwards. Okay, great. I'm going to have you guys give us kind of an update, but let me frame this for the commission. And I know there was a document that went out a few hours ago that most of us probably even haven't had a chance to review yet. But this has been in front of us a number of times over the years, over the last couple of years. The most recent conversation back in October was around this particular modification to the project. And the discussion was what would be an acceptable pipe capacity and a request for some flow monitoring. It looks as though the flow monitoring has come in. I'm not sure if the department has had a chance to review it. Unfortunately, we lost Bill Norton to a relocation. So why don't we get an update from the applicant, and then I'm sure there'll be a number of questions from the commission as we attempt to digest this. And I'll just kind of foreshadow it by saying that we probably, at least I don't have enough information or confidence from the department to make a decision tonight, but I understand that you want a decision as quickly as possible. So any update would be appreciated.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the Commission Authority, Mr. Clancy and Mr. Bodie. For the record, my name is Chris Smith. I'm a land use attorney with the law firm Valter and Pearson, and I appear before you this evening on behalf of the owner applicant, 15 Aqua Road, LLC. And at the outset, I know I have worked with Mr. Steiner and with Chris, and I just wanted to disclose that and leave it up to Chris as to whether he thinks he should recuse himself. I have not spoken with Mr. Steiner, with Chris Steiner, or anyone else on the commission or authority about this application. Obviously, I never would do that. I know we're not officially in a public hearing, but I just wouldn't do that once we filed the application. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention and afford Mr. Steiner the opportunity to respond to it, as opposed to me getting halfway through, because I know Chris Steiner wasn't here back on the commission back in October 20th, and I do congratulate you. I did not know you were going to be here this evening on the commission, so good luck with that, Chris. And I'll turn it over to you at this point if you are comfortable with that.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And I probably just would like to listen on this one, since I have not been involved in this since then. I do have just I'd just like to listen and just get more information. But I think just for the record and keep moving forward, I would like to recuse myself, especially with my knowledge of Chris Smith, and also the me jumping in probably halfway through. I wouldn't feel comfortable right now moving forward myself making any votes or decisions. Thank you.
Okay.
And just hopefully for the record, Mr. Chairman, that his knowledge of Chris Smith is not in the negative, and that's why he's recusing himself. But being somewhat sarcastic, but I just wanted to clarify.
Yes, we've done business with Chris Smith for probably about 30 years now, so it's a very good working relationship, no issues. But I'd feel more comfortable myself not vote recusing myself on this one.
Okay, and thank you, Chris. As the chair indicated, we were before you this past October, on October 20th, 2021. There is history with this proposal going back. In particular, the most recent application was involved in action by this commission on December 9th in 2020, where you did provide an approval of a conceptual plan for capacity for a mixed-use development of this property known as 15 Aqua Road. My client, that was a mixed-use development. It had a commercial component. As I indicated to you, we indicated to you back in October of this past year, especially due to the pandemic and whatnot and the lack of any demand for office space, or certainly, it's a challenge at this juncture, that my client has determined to go with a 100% residential development of the subject property at 65 dwellings that would have a related capacity of gallons per day of 9,206 gallons per day for this particular use. And we, again, are before you seeking approval and confirmation for that capacity. Back in December of 2020, you did provide an approval of a conceptual plan and conditional approval specifically. And as part of that approval, you did require that my client provide an upgrade of the line, certain portion of the line out in front of the property to go from 8-inch to 10-inch, which from what I understand will be an expenditure of well over $1 million to do that in order for the to accommodate this prior application proposal, and with the cost being borne essentially by my client in its entirety. That was substantially in part based on substantially the fact that there had been a reading of 279.8 gallons per minute back in November of 2019, I believe, and Larry Edwards, Mr. Edwards, will get back to that in a moment. That number is about 100 gallons per minute greater than the highest reading that we've had recently, and the one after that, from what I understand, is 145.9 gallons per minute. And then applying your guideline of 80%, we spent a lot of time talking about that, because at this high, what you'll hear from Mr. Edwards in a moment, that we believe is an anomaly of 280 gallons per minute, that was the basis for your decision, from what I understand, back in 2020, in December of 2020, for the conditional approval with the system upgrade, that if you computed that out utilizing your 80% guideline, because I think everybody understands you don't have a regulation, there's not a municipal ordinance, there's no state statute that says 80% is something that has to be met, you can't go over it. But utilizing what you'll hear from Mr. Edwards in a moment, that we firmly believe is an anomaly, with this 280 gallons per minute, it's actually 279.8, but 280 gallons per minute, we came out to, with this capacity being added, would be 81.3%. And in the total capacity in the line would be 1.6% attributed to here. But as far as your 80%, we would be at 81.3. If you utilize these other numbers, then the next closest number is 100 gallons per minute less. That would be roughly about 50%. And then utilizing the other number that was recent, the highest number in the recent, which was a little downstream, which in theory should have more flow going into it, would be 145.9, and that would be at approximately 41.7%. Mr. Edwards did prepare us. We did get our data in just last week, and I was actually flying out the next day. I'm on vacation from California in an extra bedroom here, so I don't have the benefit of extra screens today for this meeting, and I apologize for that. But I think that we did get this data late last week, at the end of the week, and I know Larry jumped right on it and did provide an updated report that I'm going to turn the floor over to Larry and let him walk you through it, based on the review of the old numbers, and in particular a review of the new numbers that have come in. But again, just to summarize, I was just trying to give a little summary for Larry's presentation, because as the chair indicated, this just came in. And if we had had additional time without getting the data just at the end of last week, we would have gotten it to you sooner, obviously. But two things. My client, again, is looking for confirmation of capacity for what he would like to do with the property today, without the condition of having to upgrade the system from an 8-inch pipe to a 10-inch pipe, which would be at a substantial cost to him to just bring it down below that 80% number. And it would bring it down substantially. And I'll let Mr. Edwards address that. And again, our request to the commission for this particular request is twofold. One is even utilizing this anomaly of 200 and almost 80 gallons per minute spike that occurred. And Mr. Edwards went and looked at NOAA and whatever, no significant rain events during that time period. He'll walk you through that. We would still be just at 81, just a little over 81%. And we respectfully suggest that really it's not going to, there's more than adequate capacity for the gallonage associated with this proposed development without requiring that additional upgrade. And then more importantly, that I think that upgrade was based in part on this rogue number, this anomaly that was at 280 gallons per minute without any particular rain event that had occurred or storm event. But again, what I'd like to do at this point, Mr. Chairman, is let Larry Edwards walk you through his update, so you can you can ask him any questions that you have relative to that. But for those who haven't reviewed it before, it's probably a good idea for Larry again to provide you with a summary of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Smith, and thanks for joining us on vacation. Let me, before Mr. Edwards speaks, let me just, for the record, indicate that the commission was not in favor of approving a smaller project based on the 81%. You mentioned a few times, twice, that we approved this. The idea was that we approved it conditional to the applicant finding a workaround, and that workaround was contemplated to be on Stamford Street. My concern at the time, when that was the only time this commission had ever approved something that we were not in favor of, my concern at that time was this exact issue, that someone would say that we approved this and thought it was a good idea. We never thought tapping into an 8-inch pipe was a good idea. The project's significantly larger now, so that's where we are. And Mr. Edwards, you're going to walk us through a report. What date is that report? Is it the 17th?
Yes, 17th.
Okay. So in John Clancy, is that the document that came out this afternoon, or is there a more updated document?
No, that's the document that came out this afternoon, the 17th.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Edwards, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. For the record, Larry Edwards with the firm of J. Edwards and Associates. Basically, what I did in this report is just tried to break down the history of what we have done concerning this project. And I broke it into two phases. Phase one being the original one we came before you with back in, I believe it was 2020. And our analysis of that project, again, based on the data, the only available data there was a monitoring report done by EST back in the fall of 2019. And in that data, there was one extreme spike in the readings. They were consistently, the average for the time the monitoring took place was around 106 gallons per minute. There was, I think, two other spikes that went up as far as about 181 gallons per minute. And then there was this one day and it was in the middle of the day. If you look at the results, it was, I think, around noon of that particular day that went up to 279.8 gallons. And at that time, we had no other data, nothing else to really look at for that line. So both the staff, your staff indicated that their normal was to take the peak, which we would do likewise. And in doing so, those numbers came up and created the capacity issue of 81 point whatever 3 for that existing 8-inch line. Now, what has happened in the recent conditions? Your commission requested that we do 2 additional monitorings. One we did, and I don't know if you have it in front of me. We have a small map there that shows the locations, but the original monitoring point was at the intersection of Aqua Road and the Post Road. In our new monitorings that we did, just completed them last week, there was 2 additionals. And I want to, if you do have that map, I realized I pointed to the wrong location for the second monitor. It isn't directly across the street. It's down basically in front of the shopping center. There's midway between Old Post Road and Reef Road. It would have the same flow passing through it because there's nothing else that entered in at that point. But the actual monitoring was done in the midpoint of that line. And the second one, which we're calling the third monitoring point, was down at the corner of Reef Road and Crescent Road, which at that point is a 10-inch line. And I understand, what the concern was. At 80% in the Aqua Road line, was that going to cause a spike in the conditions in the remainder of the run down to the treatment plant? So I understand why the choices were there, but the results were rather interesting in that the one that we are calling number 2, which is on basically the south side of the Post Road, below the original test that was done in 2019, and the peak at that location over the course of the study period was 145.9. Now that doesn't make a lot of sense in that, that particular test point took into account a lot of additional service area that wasn't going through the pipe that we were originally analyzing, that we were going to be directly tying into. So that whole spot, we analyzed that particular manhole, and the results were basically that that 8-inch pipe would have a total flow utilization of 49.2% of the flow of that 8-inch pipe, considerably less than the flow that we were computing based on the extreme spike in the original 2019 test. Likewise, the third location, which was a 10-inch pipe, had a peak of 186.8. Again, well below the spike that we were analyzing in the existing sewer in Umpqua. So again, that was well below the capacity of that pipe. And I'm clicking between 2 different drawings here. So that indicated the capacity for the 10-inch pipe of 39%. So
Mr. Edwards, where does it go from an 8 to a 10? Is that somewhere on Reef Road?
At the corner of Reef Road, where it starts down Reef Road, is where the 10-inch comes in.
Okay. So once it gets to Reef, it looks like it's a clear shot down to the plant.
Yeah, and even the other shot coming down the at point 2 at the south side of of the post road was, well below the capacity at 49 point something percent.
And that's the 8-inch.
That's the 8-inch. And again, that 8-inch is taking everything that comes down on both sides of the post road to the east. So that's got a considerably larger service area than what was done the one in 2019 was basically just the flow that came down from it was really on Sanford, came down, goes the post road and came into the manhole at Aqua Road. So that line had a very much smaller service area than the one that was studied as point 2 recently. So it comes down to, we started to look at and to see what would have caused that spike. And one of the first things you would think about was possibly infiltration. And we didn't have the local results, but we had the NOAA results in Bridgeport, which was the only facility they have and the closest one. And we also had a local, one of these blogs that analyzes them all over the state. And we had both those readings, and there was nothing significant more than a half an inch of rain within, the first couple of weeks ahead of that spike. So, then it comes down to, what caused the spike? Is it it would have to be either something dumping in there a large quantity of water at one time, basically, or it could be maybe there was a blockage upstream of the monitoring point and it let go and that caused the spike, or there was a problem with the monitoring equipment. But I think,
have you ever been to that intersection in a major rain event?
that's why we looked there first, but there has been no significant rain events prior to,
I know.
to that test. So, and even in that case, if it was a point where it was surface water getting directly into a manhole, then that's not a consideration that we should have to take into account. That's obviously a problem with the maintenance of the facilities. But all of those results are indicating that 279 is an anomaly. It's not what we should be designing on. So what we did is took two different ways to compute a number. We took the peak value we had at monitoring point 2, which was 145.9, which was a peak at that over the test period. And even though that's taking more service area, we took those numbers and analyzed what would be the results at our particular site. And just get back to, so I'm in the right spot. And the results of that were basically that our 8-inch on Aqua Road would be at 41.7% capacity. We looked at it a second way, the second largest spike, and there was the extreme spike at 279, and there was two other spikes that were in the neighborhood of 180. So we took the 180.2, which was the largest besides the 279, and we ran those numbers, and that resulted in a utilization of 50.4%. So they're significant numbers. And if we had this data, and again, we probably wouldn't have unless your staff recommended it, and I'm very happy they did at this point, but we wouldn't have had any reason to have an argument against that spike value. But now that we have another set of data downstream, I think we have pretty good justification to say, that is something that is beyond what is normal and not necessarily what we should be designing our capacity ratings at.
Okay.
And that's basically the extent I just want, the report goes through the numbers and, our methodology and so forth. And we would like the commission to consider that.
Gotcha. Let me check with the commission for comments and questions at this juncture. Yeah, I think we have a situation where the technical aspect of this is certainly beyond me. I have a finance background, so much of this is lost on me. But I think about it as, the taxpayers in town would say, is it prudent? Is it a good idea to put this particular development and tapping into an 8-inch pipe that has some level of capacity, which I don't know what that is right now. It looks like you want to kind of throw out one data point and say if you exclude that, it's 60% kind of worst case scenario. I think about rain events becoming more kind of volatile and heavier. And I think about if there is a surcharge here, what does that do to that part of town? And who would be accountable for the cleanup? That's kind of my point of view. Does anyone else have a comment or a question?
I mean, I'm a little concerned about just throwing out the old point too, just given it's a little bit apples and oranges in terms of, I mean, November of 2019 was pre-COVID. We're obviously in year 3 of COVID. Commercial, I mean, it was a lot more bustling back in November of 2019 than I'm sure it is right now. Once we return from COVID, I mean, just calling it an anomaly and then just throwing it out doesn't totally sit right with me. Like, just making sure we understand what caused that over 100 GPM difference. That's just the part that kind of concerns me.
Just one other thing I'd like to bring up is that these results that we have as of last week also have one of the other 2 projects that you did approve for this line and didn't have a problem with. I think it's 100 and some odd units is online and now going through this. So these readings take into account that being fully functioning and contributing to the sewer. So it's
when you say we didn't have a problem with it, I mean, what we're struggling with is with these 830G projects, no one anticipates them. So no one was thinking that you would take a commercial building downstream and put 65 units there. So I mean, that's the struggle we have. We don't know if we knew another project of this size was tapping into it, we probably would have pushed to upgrade the 8 to the 10-inch. But we just don't know. Attorney Smith.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. And as you're aware, I did not represent my client back in December of 2020. Ray Rizzio and Chris Russo, and I rely on the minutes, so the minutes didn't reflect the color that you added to it, and I apologize, but I wasn't there at the time. But to respond directly to your question, with 830G proposals, I've done a fair amount of 830G proposals throughout the state over the years. That's not just what I do, but the law the law applied to an 830G is the same as any other property. And the question is there a line running by the property? And if so, is there capacity? And as we know, you're not supposed to say no to that situation if there's capacity. And that's the protection for the commission and the authority in the town down the road is if the capacity is used up, and we respectfully submit that it's not with this proposal, but if 4 or 5 applications down the road, you have a problem, you say no, and there isn't capacity, so it doesn't qualify for that judicial standard, and they can't go forward. It's like trying to put a 65 units in a R80 zone, a 2-acre zone, and on septic, and you can't put it on the property. You just can't do it. I mean, and that's
Yeah.
why one of the things you look at is this. But and I don't think that Mr. Edwards and myself would be before the commission, nor my client who's local. And Dr. Lee Forrest is on and be asking you to do something that we thought was going to be, jeopardizing the public health safety. We just aren't going to be doing that. And Mr. Edwards has been in front of you on a long-term basis. But with all the, that's really the standard. That's the protection for the commission. But when looking at this application, there's more than adequate capacity. There's not a lot of vacant property down around this area of Fairfield to be developed.
Let me interject there. There's more than enough. In our meeting in October, Bill Norton has said, and who ran the department before, that we have never and would never approve a project that put us above 80% capacity. So being a layman, I'm gonna defer to that. You're now coming back in and saying that if you exclude a data point, then you're under the threshold, or 81.6 isn't much worse than 80. And so I get it. If I was the applicant and I could save $1 million by taking that tact, I would take that tact. But it's our job as members of the commission to kind of represent the community and say, does that make sense? And so I think what we have here is a situation where we just don't know. So what I'm going to propose is that we engage Wright Pierce, or probably Wright Pierce, on our dime to review this. They understand this terminology and flow, and they have systems and so forth. And we'll ask them to review it and give us a level of comfort or discomfort on how we go forward. I'm also going to just put out there that if we were to allow this to go forward, we would want some sort of protection that if we have surcharges in town because of this, that the applicant is paying for the cleanup or the replacement of the pipe. I mean, it's not going by an empty ball field, or I mean, this is the middle of downtown Fairfield. I've been there when there's a major rain event. You cannot cross this intersection.
And we defer to the commission to do just what you're doing. That sounds that's acceptable, and thank you.
Yeah, my feeling is that agreeing with Mark and that we're not the experts on this, and with Chris Rogers now in a new position and Bill Norton away now, and we don't have anybody that we could say, well, what does this mean? When I see a formula like that, I'm not stupid. I could read a formula, but I don't know how you get to that point. And when I hear that, we're riding around 80%, that scares me. Also, Mark is right. It's right in the middle of town. And, I don't want to get, not me personally, but the commission, get blamed for making bad decisions. So we need to get somebody that knows what all those facts and figures are and says, yep, they're right on spot. Okay. You ask me how to build a telescope. I got a certified telescope for radar and things. I can answer any question, but comes to 10-inch pipes and 8-inch pipes, all I know is an 8-inch pipe don't carry a lot, because I went through this with the commission on my first tour with the commission down over there near Home Depot. We have pipes running in the back of people's yards, and they're all bitching because they're exploding when you get a heavy rainstorm and the Rooster River explodes. So the bottom line is the commission is here to analyze and determine what's the right thing to do. I agree with Matt when he said, I don't like going from going into an 8-inch pipe. I know that. So, just my opinion. I think we need some help.
Yeah, I mean, two more comments. One, I mean, November is kind of the drier season here. I mean, March through May would certainly include a lot more rain events and that kind of stuff. But also on the newest flow monitoring report, the downstream view on page 16 of 29, the bottom left corner, I mean, it's tough to tell. It's a picture inside of a pipe, but that looks like it's roughly 40 to 50% full right now. The thought of adding a lot of additional homes to the flow that's already in that pipe as is would certainly make me nervous.
And the fact that you're going to be referring this out for your third-party review, if that we would just respectfully request, as soon as possible. I know the agency, the commission wants to move it along as well. Only, when we were in October, we were asked to do the monitoring. We were desperately, even with climate change, we were waiting for rain because we weren't getting any. So that's one of the reasons it did take so long. But we understand what you're saying, and we just ask that that occur as soon as possible. And we look forward to continuing to work with you and Wright Pierce and with Mr. Edwards and to keep the application going so you can make a decision on it. Thank you.
Of course, we understand time is of the essence here. John is present again at the plant. I know that. Oh, John's back. I know that Wright Pierce is here often. John, how soon do you think you can get this into the Wright Pierce?
He's coming. This is coming tomorrow. So I will give him the package. I will tell him, punch it into whatever you got to punch in. Let's get moving, and then he'll get on it by this week.
Okay, and then you will get back to the applicant?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Larry, you did an excellent job.
Yeah, nice overview. We appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your vacation.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Stay well.
Yeah.
Good night.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda is the update on the current project. And let me front end this while we have Nancy. I know she needs to leave shortly. That is in just my own personal opinion, that as we have some major projects in front of us, we don't have internal capacity at the town level to really undertake these projects. We had Laura Pooley, who was helping us with the hardening plant. She's retiring shortly, and it feels and looks like the engineering department at this town is thin, and quite frankly, their focus is at the town level, not at the WPCA level. So,
Which you could argue is for the town.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of one and the same, and that reminds me that, John, I think you had some points to add to the agenda that we be able to do that.
Yeah, that frees up.
Some last minute ads, but to finish the point is that I think we need to RFP, create a process to find a third party or third parties to kind of act as our owner's rep on these projects going forward, so that they get done, that they're scoped appropriately, that we're thinking about, testing soil before going forward, that we're doing the borings in the right place, who's serving as a bridge to John Bodie and to the commission, so that these projects get done on time and on budget. There's going to be kind of a grab for resources in the marketplace, and I don't want to be at the kind of receiving end of the less than adequate service providers. So we're fortunate as a commission that we have Matt and Chris with expertise here. Matt, really specific to WPCA work. And I'm gonna, if I could ask Matt to coordinate with John on getting a process to reach out broad into the market and to say, we have these 3 or 4 projects that we need to undertake, and we need some third-party expertise to guide us through them, and see what responses we get back. And as we know, these budgets, these projects have a budget, a line item for that project oversight. So this isn't incremental dollars. It's hopefully smart money being spent to get these projects done.
Mark, can I make a point here?
Sir,
Mark?
yes, sir. Yeah.
When I was running a lot of projects, I had a lot of people reporting to me over Coca-Cola. And we always had a guiding principle saying every project you do, you're either going to generate revenue, you're going to cut costs, or you're going to have a cost avoidance. To me, if any of these projects don't meet that criteria, they're nice to have. The other thing is, I mentioned it, I think last month rather, I'd like to see an ETA. In other words, every month we look at a lot of the same projects, but we don't know what the end point is going to be. So, I'd like
excellent point. Excellent point, Ron. With the capital budget that was presented a few days ago to the town, it's really a focus on the Metro Center crossing, the pipe that needs to be replaced there, the Ash Creek, what we call the East Trunk Interceptor line, which is probably a $10 million project, which is kind of mission critical on a number of levels, including removing I&I from the system. The Rooster River, the section of pipe up by the Board of Education, which probably has an exorbitant amount of I&I in it. And those are kind of the immediate areas of focus. The siphon projects out there, and that that's something that with conservation we need to talk about. But those projects I mentioned are realistically the projects we're going to get done, and I should say a pump station as well. Probably the Fairfield Beach Road pump station, which a design build sort of proposal on that.
Also, during that capital planning discussion, a couple of different people brought up the concern about project management and deliverables, and because they were big expenses, and just I think also in light of some of the information that's come to light with the fill pile and Penfield Pavilion and how that project had oversight. So I think it's mission critical that we find the right support and process and timeline and metrics, because I think all eyes are on not only for the process, but for the health and safety and well-being and the success of the projects. And I'm sorry, I have to jump because I have another work pitch meeting. So unfortunately, it's a comedy of errors with these meetings. So I apologize. But I do have to
Nancy,
go.
glad you joined and appreciate
I'm sorry.
that input. No, it's good to have you always.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so as a commission, we think it's a good idea for Matt and John to kind of liaise on that and hopefully come back to us with an update next month. And then John, do you want to? Or
hey Matt, I could get you some names too, of third parties if you were trying to reach out to people or whoever they can. I could try to reach out, get some third party names of construction people.
So I mean, my thought right now is, John and I need to, and obviously Mark, chime in if you think that I'm misstating it, but my thought is that John and I should work together to put together a quals-based RFP for a consulting engineer that can help us drive these projects through design and then through construction administration. So we don't necessarily need a contractor, and I know engineers, but we can't sole source one either. So we have to put together a quals-based RFP where we can choose from those who bid on it.
Well, yeah,
but-
I think maybe I'm more talking like what Mark was saying, like a third party overseer, not any engineers or anything, just someone that would report, I guess, back to us. Is that what you're looking for, more as like a liaison between us and the sewer department?
I was picturing an engineer to do things like, even something as like the last one, reviewing a flow monitoring report and opining on whether or not that is acceptable. That would probably be a more minor task within that consulting engineer's role, but it's an owner's rep type of position to help us drive projects forward, because that's just something we're lacking right now.
Love it. I think we'll get a few responses, and it'll be value add.
Yeah, Mark, in support of that, the projects that you just listed off in terms of the high priority ones, if you can either email me or just having that list would help in terms of, I would want to prepare the RFP where we're focusing on tasks that are related to those type of projects. Like obviously everything you just listed was not treatment plant specific. So we don't really need somebody who's got treatment plant expertise. We need mostly conveyance, lift stations, more that side of things, as opposed to anybody who's got solids handling or any of the treatment plant type of stuff. So.
Agreed. So why don't we kind of go in that order as we review the projects? Let's begin with the one that's hopefully just about done, which is the Eastern Turnpike pump station, which I think is a good example of using Wright Pierce as our consulting engineer to get a fairly substantial project done. I think it probably would have been right on budget had we not had to cart a whole bunch of dirt up to Massachusetts because no one thinks that Fairfield's dirt is clean. But what's the status on that?
Yeah, Wright Pierce is a good example of this project, Mark. So the update for the Eastern pump station is, you're right, it almost is complete. The gas meter has been installed. The gas piping is completed. Fencing is installed. The preliminary startup, John dated out, was for January 14th. The temporary generator has been removed, and there's going to be training for the staff. That's yet to be announced due to scheduling. And commissioning was set for the 17th, so I think it's in commission. So everything went well with that project. John, did you hear what I said about you faded out?
I heard half of what everybody said this whole night. Eastern Turnpike's all set. The generator was commissioned. It was load banked. Cummins was there. They commissioned it. It's online, and the temporary is, if it's not done already, it will be shortly. So we just yet to be trained on the generator, but I mean, how much is there to that? Not much. So.
Okay, so then let's go to the Interceptor. This is critical, and from both an removal of I&I perspective, we have it kind of scoped and planned. We then circled back to get test borings. We know the Metro Center is changing hands and is likely to increase the capacity, the need for our capacity in that part of town. So it's something we really got to get moving on. There's a bullet here, had an initial meeting to get this project back on track. What does that mean?
John Bodie, myself, and Bill Hurley and Chris Rogers had a meeting to try to expedite this thing and jumpstart this project. So we actually have a meeting set with January 28th with Cardinal for the pricing, and and the permitting. So after that meeting, I'll give you guys the lowdown on what went on there. But we felt that we need to meet with Cardinal, have a sit down, and just go over everything with the permitting and the pricing. And that's going to happen January 28th.
Okay. Yeah, this is, would be the ideal time to get an owner's rep involved in this. But that's not going to happen. So we'll get an update in February. John Bodie, do you want to try coming in on your phone? Yeah. Oh well. Okay. The let's while we're over in that part of town, talk about the East Trunk Wetlands Crossing. We approved the increased dollar amount for additional borings.
Yeah.
Are those underway? Have they been done?
One has been completed and we're waiting on the second one. The reason we're waiting on the second one is because they had to get another machine to go deeper into the site. So one has been done and we're waiting on the second one to be completed.
Okay, so this is for Chris Steiner, this is the pipe immediately adjacent to the Metro Center. And we're not sure if it needs to be replaced, if it can be lined. We just know that it needs to be stabilized, potentially upgraded before that Metro Center project gets moving. And I suspect that Metro Center project is going to get moving quickly. So that moves it up as kind of a priority project to get underway this year. Over a year ago, we hired a third party through an RFP process to assess what our options are there. So that's the kind of the pace of play here. Which if it takes us a year to just figure out our options, then that doesn't bode well for actually getting the pipe replaced or upgraded on a timely basis. Again on the short list, I don't even see it on the list. John Clancy, I don't know. You guys had an internal meeting on this, I believe. It's the Upper East Trunk, Rooster River. Is that anywhere? Am I missing that?
The Upper East, yeah, the Upper East Trunk, the sewer relocation. Yeah, there's no update on that.
Okay, but I saw in the notes of the capital planning meeting that was kind of approved and targeted as a project. So it struck me as being unusual that it's not on our list.
Yeah.
All right, we need John Bodie back in. I'll call John tomorrow or. Okay, so we don't have any color on that, but Matt, those are the three, and then the Fairfield Beach pump station, which is hopefully a kind of plug and play situation for a few $1 million.
I know on the East Trunk Interceptor, at one point we were talking potentially about trenchless as an option there.
Yeah.
Where are we on that whole?
John Bodie, can you use your phone or can you call in?
I could try. I've never done the phone thing.
Okay.
But this is ridiculous. I came to work to,
Yeah.
um,
Or you know what? Why don't you call me and I'll put you on speaker?
Okay. What's your number?
646-301-2483.
Okay. Call you now.
Okay. WPCA, Mark speaking.
This is the computer illiterate freezer to, now I'm gonna stay on, right? Because it's,
We'll see. Maybe we'll now that we don't think of it. I'm gonna,
so, yeah,
I'm gonna, go ahead.
where are we at now?
We were on the upper East River. Call me back if you get disconnected. The upper East River.
Trunk interceptor?
Yeah, which I saw was approved in the capital plan, and we don't have it on our list. So, do you have any color on that?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
So we'll find out. Maybe next time you talk to Bucky, find out what moved that up in terms of priority.
Okay.
Matt had asked about going trenchless on the Interceptor project, and the last conversation I was part of was with Bill Hurley, which we all thought that was worthwhile to consider, and some plans were going to be shared with Matt. Okay. Okay, John's back. John Bodie, we're talking trenchless on the East Trunk Interceptor. Matt, you were going to ask someone at your firm to take a look at that. Was it
Yeah. So
kind of as a pro bono sort of thing?
yeah, exactly. So I had one of my colleagues review the Wright Pierce third-party test and some of the other documents, and I think Wright Pierce had actually even said that trenchless could and should maybe be considered as an option. But regardless of what they said, he agreed. He said that it should be considered as an option, and that there's some TBD work as far as geotech. I mean, specifically borings. Some 10-foot boring. He said borings, a couple borings would need to take place, probably 6 to 8 of them, at least 10 feet deep, to just kind of vet out whether or not trenchless could actually work in this particular case. So.
Yeah. It sounds like to me, the non-engineer, it sounds like technology that would serve us well given the location of where this project is, and it's a relatively straight shot.
Right.
But John Bodie, is that something that is to be discussed with Cardinal later this month, or is that kind of out of their realm of expertise?
My understanding is Cardinal, the guy that was there, I think he's since retired. They're kind of old school.
Yeah.
And they argue, to use RCP pipe instead of PVC. And RCP is short sections and it's heavier and it's harder to maneuver. And PVC is twice as long and you can get farther cheaper. But it's something that we will bring up to them when we meet. I know Bill Hurley contacted Cardinal about another sit down, but there hasn't been any info on when a meeting is going to take place.
Yeah. So if we had that third party expert or expertise, we would insert them into this process right now and
Right.
help us assess. So I defer to you whether or not that meeting in a few weeks should take place or be postponed. But
I mean, my understanding from the prior conversations is that shoring is the main
Yes.
as far, and so, I mean, the pipe material is irrelevant like that. I mean, they could say we could use PVC versus HDPE versus concrete pipe. That's going to be savings of peanuts. We still have to do shoring if we're doing trenching. So the trying to eliminate trenching and actually going trenchless would be the biggest cost saver.
Yeah.
Doing the deeper borings, even if it turns out that we find out we can't do trenchless, that would still better prepare us as far as shoring options and everything. So the borings wouldn't be a waste regardless. And I guess the only question I had is I saw on the project status that we're waiting on results from environmental testing on Time Bond. They're just doing soil sampling though. They're not doing any kind of, what are they doing, I guess, or have they already done it and so it's too late?
They did additional boring. I know we got something from, I got to read it here. Hold on one second. We got an email, or we got something from Cardinal on the additional, or is this, hold on a second. No, this is from 2019. There was something from Bill Hurley, or, Harley Lanford, whatever, who works for, hold on one second, let me pull up that email. If my computer will work to that aspect.
Yeah, hopefully.
East Trunk Assessment. All right, I'm sorry. This is from December 20th. So Bill Hurley just sent me this recently, and I thought it was the additional boring, but I don't see anything. I don't see anything here of any great value so far.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
John Bodie, let me propose this. When you speak with Bill Hurley next, why don't you tell him what we have kind of in the works, or brief him on our conversation this evening.
Okay.
And ask him if he still thinks a meeting with Cardinal should take place, or if that should wait a bit.
Okay. We'll reach out to him tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And because this way, no sense setting something up and then canceling it if we're gonna move on a project and coordinator or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, Mark, one quick question. I guess John, we're waiting for a boring machine to go in to do some more. Are these soil borings or wetlands? Are soil tests to look for contaminants for the East Trunk? You said you're waiting for a different machine.
Yeah, that's,
We had to do
John.
borings, I think.
Yeah, different project.
Okay. So if we needed borings, we couldn't use the same people to do borings like what Matt was asking for soil borings. We can't use the same people to schedule the same timing. Or it's different type.
That's what I wanted to know too, Chris. If Time Bond hasn't, so according to the project status, it says waiting for results from environmental testing from Time Bond. If they've already done the environmental testing, obviously it's too late, but if they're still planning on going out into the fields, it would be worthwhile to see if, in addition to whatever soil testing they're doing, if they can also do some of these deeper borings that we need to support potential trenchless.
Yes. Thank you.
I think the company they brought in for the additional soil borings and stuff was Specialized. So
it's a good question. We'll ask. The Metro Center is a kind of specialized large crane that's coming in, but who knows? It's been 14 months, so maybe they haven't done it yet. But it's that sort of thinking that we need more of. Connecting those dots and thinking about how we can be both more effective and efficient.
Well, and just to clarify, I misspoke before. I said that my colleague had recommended borings at least 10 feet. He recommended at least 10 feet deeper from the proposed bottom of the trenchless. So if it's going to be 8 feet deep as far as a pipe, then we would need 18-foot deep borings. So we're talking potential. I mean, I don't know what the current plan is as far as the conceptual design, as far as depth, but I'm assuming that we're talking relatively deep borings as far as the 6 to 8 that we need. So
yeah, it is deep, and there's the shoring cost was $3 or $4 million.
Right.
So trenchless is got to be looked at.
Absolutely.
And I mean, a combination is an option too, like to at least just do trenchless for a long run. And then, I mean, if there's a lot of bends, trenchless is not a good option.
No,
but I know that there's at least one section of that. I remember looking at it that looks like it would be prime for, it's probably the bulk of the shoring costs, and it's
You're
probably a prime opportunity to do trenchless, at least for that long section. So.
You're right. It may save us quite a bit of money on contaminated,
that too, yeah. Right.
That's a former industrial area of town.
One other thing to keep in mind too is the agreements with the Army Corps of Engineers and Clarion or some or I don't remember else who, but it's running out, which they need to be renewed. So that's another reason for the meeting with Cardinal. They're going to have to do the renewals on those agreements with the Army Corps and whoever else is on board.
Yeah. Well, look, we have partial knowledge here, so defer to Bill Hurley on what's best. We quite honestly, we have no idea.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So are there any other questions on the projects? Otherwise, I think we need a motion to add a few items that John sent around. Hearing none, we'll close out that section of tonight's program. And John, what do we need a motion on? What do you need decisions on?
Okay. First item is.
Well, tell me what it is so that we can have a motion before you get into it.
More funding for the hardening project that Holzer Construction did.
Okay, and what's the other item?
The other item is money for the microgrid project.
Okay, so is there a motion to add to tonight's agenda a budget item for the microgrid and a budget item for the hardening project? Looks like Mr. Steiner.
I'll put out a motion.
Motion to update tonight's agenda. Second, coming from Mr. Manchisi. All in favor? That's Matt, Ron, Chris, and Mark. Okay, first item. Tell us what it is.
The hardening project, Holzer Construction.
That's the
wall around the plant.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find which email is that from.
I don't know.
Okay, is that the Yankee microgrid document?
No, that's the next item of business.
That's the WPCA chargeback? No.
No. You know what? Maybe I didn't send it to you. My apologies. You know what? I'll send it. We'll do it next time.
Okay, no action taken. Yankee microgrid.
Yankee microgrid. We are short $91,166.57. This is dating back to last December. Also, there is another component to this for labor and material to put in fuse safety switches at the fire training center, at the animal control facility, and the conservation workshop. That is another $18,975.
Okay, so what's the total in round numbers?
I'm going to give you that 1 second. I'm sorry I didn't
Okay,
add this up before. So that is $111,000 in round numbers.
okay. And has that work been done?
No,
Okay, needs to be done.
needs to be done.
Yep. In order to get the microgrid to operate.
Correct.
Okay,
And it also needs to get the pump station, which is behind the conservation building, powered up.
yep,
And because right now I'm paying for a generator to be there in case we need it.
okay. Is that the last item on the microgrid?
That should get it to, as far as I'm told, that should get it to the end.
Okay. The issue with this has been playing kind of volleyball with engineering and telling them that these other departments should put in some money.
Right.
Okay. To Nancy's prior point, we're the same town, and they are not moving forward on that, and as a result, we're not having our microgrid hooked up.
Correct.
So I think what we'll see as a commission over the next few months, the town is moving in a direction of allocating costs and expenses, and it'll be a more defined process going forward. But there's not a document that we can point to here that says that the animal shelter has to pay us $12,000, or the fire department needs to pay us $30,000. So it's my feeling that we should pay this and get our microgrid hooked up and not worry about getting money from other departments in the same town that we live in. I know that Joe would be opposed to that, and that's fine, but I'm going to be so bold as to make the motion to approve $111,000 to complete the work on the microgrid. Is there a second? Second from Matt. Comments, questions?
Yeah, I have a question mark on that there. How much money have we already spent on this project, just in general?
It's a good question.
I agree with you. I think we got to look at the big picture, and I think what supports the town is good for everyone, and what support, we gotta keep moving forward. It's just for what, $100,000, is that 10% of the project? Is that 50%? What just a general, how much money is that for the whole project?
John, do you have that number? I don't.
I don't have that number, but I did see some paper this morning, and I'm trying to clean my, I'm going to say 2.4 million was the initial cost before all the contaminated dirt and the work stoppage and the add-ons and whatnot.
There's a lot of grant money there as well.
Yeah.
It's it needs to be completed. We're not surprised by this, and I expect by the time we actually get around to saying yes, the cost will have increased by 20%, and we'll be talking about it again next month.
Yeah.
Okay. Any comments, questions? All in favor? It's a yes from Ron, Chris, Matt, and Mark. Okay. Okay, that closes out the agenda. John, there was an attachment that you had sent around on, it's not for decisioning, on the WPCA chargeback. This gets to the town allocating more expenses to the WPCA. We'll have a more robust conversation about that next month. But when you have a conversation with the town's CFO, can you bring to light that we send them bills for processing town wastewater, which they do not pay? And if we're going to be paying for the resources that the town affords us, we would expect that they would be paying for the wastewater that we process for them.
Will do.
Okay, and I don't know what that is in terms of dollar amount, but I just heard today that we send the town bills for the town properties and they send them back to us. So.
And then we make the monetary payment.
Yeah, and then we pay them. Yeah. So.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So we're all gonna, we're gonna define our boundaries, and I think that's fine. I think that's healthy. We'll ask them to pay their fair share. So,
agreed. And I will give you a copy of the budget once it's all finalized, so you all can review it.
Okay.
I should have that before next meeting.
Okay, great. Were there any discharges?
No, sir.
Okay. That's it. All right. A motion to adjourn?
I just want to make one quick comment and thank John Bodie for, I think it was 2 weeks ago, January 8th, we had a Cub Scout site field visit to the wastewater treatment plant, and he gave all the kids a nice tour, and the adults who joined. I was one of those lucky adults. So.
He's a good host, isn't he?
He's a very good host. So thank you, John.
Yeah.
I couldn't do anything about the smell. Sorry.
No. I've noticed that.
Yeah, I didn't take him up to the press and GBP like I did with you, Mark.
Yeah. I think that was a good idea. Yeah. You don't want to scar those young kids. Yeah, this is what our town produces. Holy. All right.
With that, I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Motion from Matt, second from Chris. Thank you, the three of you, and Nancy Pryor for joining us, and John Bodie and John Clancy. Thanks for all your hard work.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Good night.
Good night, guys.
Good night.